Well, hello, this is Kathleen Rose, Superintendent President at Gavilan College, and here we are again for the Presidential Podcast. So this is my second podcast. I did one last spring, and it was a bit of an experiment, and it seemed to be received very well by the college community, and it was posted on our website. Many of you listened to it. I got lots of great feedback. And so Grant and Geronimo asked me if I would be interested in doing more again this academic year, and I said, yes, absolutely. So throughout the year, I will be recording podcasts when I have time, and I'm going to be tapping many of you to come in and be interviewed by me. And I will be doing interviews and having opportunities to get to know you a little better and ask questions about your work here at the college. And then I will be wrapping up the podcast with a segment called What's on My Mind and talking about things happening here at the college overall and things coming up in the future of the life of the college. So on today's podcast, I'm going to be interviewing Sabrina Lawrence, who is full-time faculty and our DE coordinator, distance education coordinator, and also Adam Lopez. Adam is the president of the Associated Students of Gavilan College, and so these two folks, I'm sure, are going to have a lot to say. So we're going to start out with those two interviews and then wrap up with a little bit of segment on what's on my mind. So welcome back to the Presidential Podcast, and today I am extremely honored to have as my first guest on the podcast Adam Lopez. Adam is the president of Associated Students of Gavilan College, and so welcome, Adam. I'm really glad you're here on the podcast today.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's my pleasure.
So, today, this is a big year for you with ASGC. You kicked it off in a monumental way when you came to convocation. Your convocation speech, it basically closed the house down. Everybody loved your speech at convocation. We felt like what you had to say about why students came to the college, why students complete at the college was extremely important. Can you talk a little bit about the focus of that speech and why you felt that message was so important for our students?
Yeah, of course. With the speech, I think the best part about it that everybody liked was the story near the end about the runner in the Olympics of '89, I believe. It was very inspirational, and I heard it the day before at the MESA workshop where they had a retired teacher from Gilroy come in, and he said that story, and it inspired the whole room, and it connected with me. And I talked to him afterwards, and he told me about all his years of working with students, of being in the community, and about all it meant to him, and how that story resonated with him personally. And I really liked the message it gave, and I felt like it did connect a lot with the message you wanted to give at this year's convocation with finding our direction. And there's just so much that really goes into the passion and the focus of doing all this for students and knowing where you want to go. But it's also just as important to really make sure we stay dedicated to that.
Yeah, definitely. So my sense of you is that that's going to be the way you're going to be your focus as a president for ASGC as well. Can you tell me a little bit about what lies ahead for ASGC and what you hope to accomplish in this year as president?
Well, in the long run, what I want to do is make more leaders. I know I'm not going to be here a long time. I'm going to move on and transfer, go to another university. So I want to make sure that there's other leaders who can take up afterwards and keep moving forward. Because if you're going to be a good leader, you're going to inspire other people to be even better leaders.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
As far as a personal goal, that's what I want to do. As more of like an in-focus goal, I want to make sure clubs and other student life here on GAV can really like grow and start to bloom into something more than what it is right now, to get more students involved. Because we do have a small student population at GAV, but even though with just so many students being involved, it can make such a big difference.
Yeah, do you think there's a little turning of the tide with student engagement? Do you think students are interested in getting more involved politically, socially, in issues in our society more now than maybe a year ago?
I would definitely say yes, especially with the presidential election that just went by. It's really brought up a lot of emotions that people have towards certain topics that they thought were set in stone.
Mm-hmm.
So it really does open up a huge dialogue to people personally and with other groups across campus, especially now that as of last year, we have the Gavilan Democratic Club and the Young Americans for Freedom. One is a liberal group, the other is more conservative, but they both get along very well, and they're both very good outlets for people to share their thoughts on politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I've been watching what those groups are doing on campus, and I'm really pleased that we have an environment here where students feel free to come forward, express themselves, be engaged, that we have an environment here where students can express free speech and that they know they can come and exercise that opportunity to grow in that way. So what kind of great activities are going to be occurring with ASGC this year? What are the highlights that you're looking forward to in your leadership role as president?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Just today, in a couple of hours, starting from 11:30 all the way to 2 o'clock, we're going to have Club Day, which is our first big event of the year. We're going to have all the clubs come down, and they're going to have their own tables where they can showcase what their club is about, what they're going to be doing, and just to recruit more members for the semester. And this year's pirate theme, so we're going to have me dressed up as a pirate, everyone have pirate activities, giving out chocolate gold coins. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, great.
And those are the type of events that we really want to have during this year, where it's something fun and where students can socialize and meet more people, but also find outlets where they can get involved and find resources.
Mm-hmm. Good. So, Adam, what's your goal here at Gavilan College? What's your major, and how long will you be here to be able to provide this kind of leadership for the college?
Well, my own goal is to learn as much as I can in every aspect of what Gav can offer me, from my own personal social interactions with other students to what I can learn from my teachers, from what they teach me directly and indirectly, and just getting to experience what it's like to be part of a community that's different from where I grew up in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's your major?
My major is aerospace engineering.
Oh, and where do you hope to transfer?
For my 4-year, it's probably either UC Berkeley or maybe San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping I can maybe go to MIT or some other graduate school for my master's.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt I'm going to watch that path happen for you. So what kind of wishes do you have for Gavilan College? What would you like to see happen here? What kind of improvements would you like to see occur at the college? You've got my ear for sure.
Well, oh boy.
And you don't have to give me the whole long list now. Of course, you've got my ear the whole time you're here. But what kind of things would you like our listeners to know that are on your mind in terms of goals you would like to see happen for the college?
Well, I would like people to be more involved, you know? I know that when I first started, I had a lot of fright and all this like anguish on me that I don't know if I was ready to be involved at the college level, because I have so many classes going on, I have life at home, and I just don't know if I'm up for it. So I want people to know that it's all right to feel afraid sometimes, but when you do become part of a club, you do become part of student government or something else in school, you're going in with a team. You're going in with people that you're going to become friends with. And they'll really help you grow as a person, and they'll help you across your path through Gavilan College. So it really does help you personally to build as your character. Mm-hmm. And I think if people want to be involved, then definitely take that chance. Go out and see what Gavilan has to offer.
Great. If our listeners want any other information about how to get involved in ASGC, where would they go?
We do have our office, which is in the corner of the Student Center. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a lot of signage coming up where they're going to be able to see it right as soon as they walk in, flashing lights and everything. And they can always go in there. We have our office hours posted on the door. They can speak to either myself or another ASGC member who is in there. I also have my email, asgcpres@mygavilan.edu.
Good.
So there's a lot of outlets to reach me by. And you'll probably also see me on campus a lot. I walk around, I run to places, to meetings. So more than likely people will find me on campus doing something.
Well, Adam, I'm really glad you came and were a part of my number 2 podcast.
Awesome.
And if there's ever anyone else that you think might benefit from coming on the podcast and talking about events on campus, please let me know. And I think your leadership is going to go a long way to increase the membership with ASGC and certainly have a huge imprint on what we do here at the college going forward. So thanks so much for coming here today.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Rose. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, well, we're back, and now I'm with Sabrina Lawrence. Sabrina Lawrence has been here at Gavilan College as full-time faculty since when, Sabrina?
2008.
2008, but Sabrina has really deep roots with Gavilan College. She actually started here at Gavilan College as a kid when she was 16, and so she kind of came back home to Gavilan College when she came back as a full-time faculty member, and she's also an alumni of Gavilan College. And I think other members of your family have come to Gavilan College, and you actually have family members who live in our district. And your mom, I think, taught at Gavilan College?
My mother was a music teacher, part-time music teacher at Gavilan.
So Sabrina really knows and loves Gavilan College, and I was lucky to know Sabrina at our previous unnamed college where we both worked there together, and so that's where we met. And so Sabrina's full-time faculty and our distance education coordinator. And I wanted to spend some time with Sabrina today because she's pretty undescribable when it comes to distance education. She single-handedly, and I will say that, single-handedly, has launched our distance education program from a few classes that we've been experimenting with in distance education, to a full-fledged program that is a source of huge pride for the district. We have now a number of classes that are sought after from our students every semester that become impacted, that are full, that persist, that are really well designed on our platform. We've changed platforms a couple of times. We are now on Canvas, and I want Sabrina to talk about that a little bit. We've done some experiments now through Title V grant. I want Sabrina to talk about that as well. And we are now thinking about becoming a part of the Online Education Initiative, which I will have Sabrina also talk about. But the reason why I wanted Sabrina to be my first faculty member on the podcast is because she's an instructional design extraordinary thinker, and she's always an out-of-the-box thinker. And with distance education, the sky is definitely going to be the limit for Gavilan. And so, Sabrina, talk a little bit about the evolution of distance education at Gav and really the advent of DE and, where we started and now our progression of where we are now.
Okay. Well, I would be remiss probably if I didn't say that our library here at Gavilan really gave a good foundation for distance education. Joanne Howell, who was my predecessor, really laid a good foundation for what the program needed to be, and also who needed to be available to support it. So she started off and really gave it good roots. And then when I took over, we were on our way, and we had a lot of teachers who were pioneers who really were interested in delivering education curriculum in that format. And so they took off with it. And we had some reluctant folk as well. And I'm happy to say that most of the ones that were reluctant when I got here have now fully embraced it, which is good because our students really have demanded that type of technology. They really want access to notes, to syllabi, to a lot of the things that instructors would normally hand out and might get lost. Things that they can review at midnight instead of having to wait for an answer from the teacher if they're looking at their PowerPoint slides, things like that. So the students have driven it as well, have driven our instructors to actually want to utilize the system as well. So it's an effort between our pioneers and our students, and now others are embracing it, as well as you mentioned the Online Education Initiative. when the state received their grant and put together the online education initiative, that really helped to push us even further to develop more curriculum, better teaching skills and teaching online, lots of training available, things like that. So it's really evolved from a grassroots effort of a few instructors who were hardy enough, who were game enough to try it, to where we are today, which is, to be a teacher in today's community college, and I would even say K through 12, you really have to know how to use that online component to support your course, whether it's fully online or you're teaching face to face, but you want to use it for supplemental instruction.
So there's a real perception out there that if you take a course online, it's somehow going to be easier or simpler, or it's not going to be as rigorous as if you're in the classroom with a teacher face to face. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think that that is a misconception. In fact, I think you have to be a little hardier sometimes to take an online class, because if you have a face-to-face class and you have to be there Tuesday, Thursday from 9 to 11, that's on your calendar, that's on your schedule. If you don't show up, you're in trouble. When you're taking a class online, and usually it's an asynchronous class, so it's not being taught in real time. You can check in whenever you have time. You have usually deadlines and due dates, but you don't have any real class time that you have to be there. It's easy to just slack off. And I'm the worst. I will openly admit it. I am the worst online student. And it's so easy to just put it off. Uh-huh. And so you really have to be self-disciplined to take an online class. You really have to be one of those people who can say, you know what, technology failed, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to give up. I'm going to contact the instructor. I'm going to work through it. And so technology's gotten a lot more stable these days. Hopefully, we don't have those kinds of issues like we used to in the early days. But you do still have to be one of those kinds of people that can not be phased and just take it in stride and continue on. So I think you have to be a little hardier. The quality of the instruction is just as good, if not better. And again, with the online education initiative helping us, we're able to get our teachers better trained in delivering curriculum in that method, in that delivery method. So
we had a Title V grant that came on board recently, and a part of that Title V grant was to look specifically at distance education and pull together some cohort groups and some really out-of-the-box thinkers, again, in our faculty corps, to look at distance education, look at the content in those courses, and then design some course content that was unique. And talk a little bit about that project.
Okay, well, we have the grant, and which is great because it actually came along at the right time. The Online Education Initiative had just given us some really good training materials and kind of a structure for how distance ed is going to look at the community college moving forward. So the grant came at a great time for us locally as we were able to form these cohorts. We take 6 instructors a year. And it's a year-long program, and we give them access to the latest training materials. We put them in a cohort so that they can talk to each other and bounce ideas off each other, give each other feedback. And they're from all different departments, which is great because sometimes faculty don't have time to go seek out other departments on campus, and they just spend the whole year talking to their own colleagues in their own department. But in this way, they're actually talking to others and getting good ideas, maybe partnering up for certain things, meeting their fellow colleagues, which is great. Mm-hmm. And so that's one component of the cohort. And then the other component is we have an instructional technologist. We've been able to hire a part-time instructional technologist who helps them with their course design, making sure that the instruction, that the tools that they're using aren't hindering the curriculum, but that they're actually enhancing the curriculum, and learning the tools doesn't become a stumbling block to accessing the actual content and the learning experience. So that having an instructional technologist who works with instructional design has really been a benefit to our instructors because they're the subject matter experts. They're not necessarily experts in design. So that helps them to present their materials in a clear manner to the students. And then we also are the instructional technologist that we have currently, Aloha Sargent, who's been really great. She also is, excuse me, certified in with the Online Education Initiative in evaluating online classes, which is terrific.
Yeah.
So she can give our instructors feedback as they work through. Mm-hmm. What they're doing is taking one of their classes and working to improve it and or create it for the first time, so that we can make sure that when they deliver it, that there is a high success rate in that course.
So what are some of the examples of the courses that have been in those cohorts?
We've had English. Oh, I'm sorry, not English yet. Hopefully that's this year. We've had Spanish.
There's a shout out for English. We have to make sure the English are in the cohort this year.
We need an English instructor. We have we have a Spanish instructor currently. We're going into year 3. We've done 2 cohorts so far. Year 1, we had a Spanish instructor who wanted to put a fully online Spanish class, who created a fully online Spanish class. And he hasn't done, we've done hybrid, but we haven't done fully online. So he's teaching it for the first time this semester. And shout out to him, David Perez, because he's really had to jump through the hoops and go through the ropes with the technology. So shout out to him for that. But we've had library, we've had Spanish, we've had political science, we have a communications instructor in year 2. Mm-hmm. She's working on a hybrid right now, and we'll see where that goes in the future. But we think that's a really good blend for that curriculum right now. And we have computer science, we have economics, humanities. What else do we have? Just a whole slew of different areas. So we'll be working on year 3 starting in October. And the other hope for those instructors too, which one of the objectives that we explained to them at the beginning of the cohort, is that they serve as sort of a informal mentor to their department, to anybody who wants to create their courses to go online. Mm-hmm. So we're hoping part of the grant was too that we spread that knowledge base. We can only do 6 instructors per year, but we're hoping they go out and spread that knowledge base and that mentoring to their departments and across campus.
Well, this has really been an exciting thing for Gavilan overall, and we have invested in it and will continue to invest in it. I know we are in the midst of, or have we fully gone online now with Canvas?
Yes, we are completely online with Canvas. Summer was really our first fully online. We had over, I think it was almost 100 courses this summer. Wow. Online, which is the biggest semester we've had for online courses. Yeah. And we also, this semester, fall semester, we have about 117 online classes. That doesn't include hybrid and supplemental. And that's up over previous years. The other thing, we have about 400 total courses that we're running through Canvas right now, with about 4,500 duplicate users. So they might be more than one, taking more than one class.
So every semester, our student headcount and retention is also continuing to increase in DE.
For the most part, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I know the communication amongst faculty continue to increase too. The engagement of faculty, the word is spreading about distance education. I know you're getting out there and talking to all the departments about that. And all faculty have the opportunity to put their courses on Canvas to be able to do as minimum or maximum of what they want to do in terms of lecture notes, syllabi, multimedia content, and so forth.
Yes.
What do you think the future is going to hold in all of this? Where do you think we're going institutionally?
Well, it's really hard to predict because, of course, that's as good as the technology is. We've been talking about video conferencing, two-way video. Web conferencing would probably be a more current term, where we deliver synchronous instruction. We have 2 satellite campuses, so it might help to create a class that ordinarily couldn't go because it didn't have enough enrollment in one location if you split the enrollment between 2 locations.
So maybe for Hollister, for Morgan Hill, and also for Coyote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's one thing. But in the online platform that we have now with Canvas, one of the things that we're doing is we're integrating a lot of student success tools. So anything from orientations to counseling to we're doing there's an exam platform for the nursing department that we're integrating into Canvas. Some of the publisher materials, some instructors use get integrated into Canvas. So we have this integration thing going on where any tool that can be integrated into our learning management software, which is Canvas, that we're doing that. And it just provides all the tools in one place for both the instructor and the student to use.
So if faculty want any additional information about how they can learn about the scope of Canvas, how they can use it in the classroom, what do they do next?
Well, we have a standing open workshop on Wednesdays from 1 to 3, and teachers can drop in anytime that they want to have, if they have any questions, if they want to start from the beginning, if they just have a specific question, they can come on in, drop in.
Either that's at the Teaching and Learning Center.
Teaching and Learning Center, and myself or my colleague Peter Howell will be there, who's also, I should shout out to him too, because he's great support of distance ed.
Yeah.
And he will be there, or myself, and we're there Monday through Friday as well. You can drop in, but if we're not, we might be at a meeting or whatever. So if you want to guarantee that that one of us will be there, you can either call us at extension 4885 or email us, which is probably the best way to get a hold of us. And that's disted, DISTED at gavilan.edu. Request an appointment, make sure we're going to be there. And we're happy to help at any time. We also have a website. Our Teaching and Learning Center website has lots of tutorials for Canvas. And that's just right off the main webpage under faculty and staff. You can find the Teaching and Learning Center there.
Okay. Wow. A lot of information, a lot going on in distance education. So I want to thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
And I probably will have you come back sometime in the future to give us an update of what's going on in distance education, because it's clear to me that unless we do, I'm not going to keep up with what you're doing, because there's always something happening for sure in distance education. So thanks very much for being a part of the show.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that wraps up my interviews for this week's podcast. And before I go, as I did with my first podcast, I added a little segment called What's on My Mind. And so I wanted to do that this time as well. So at Convocation, as you recall, I talked a little bit about this year being the year of practice. And I'm going to come back to that theme over and over and over again this year. And if you've been following the First Friday columns, you know that the Coffee and Conversations have been gearing up. The President's Forums will be happening starting the last week of September. And there'll be many opportunities for us to get together and talk. And of course, you can always stop by the office or make an appointment to come in and talk with me. A lot of things happening on campus, of course. The year of practice, though, is a personal theme as well as a professional theme. You know, if I think about all the things in my life that I've started and stopped and practiced, from piano lessons when I was a kid for 5 years and then abandoned, to practicing yoga when I was younger and then stopping, to doing certain things that I thought I was going to do for life and then ended. There are some things, though, I'm proud to say I have practiced and have continued. Like, I've always been a journaler, so I keep a pretty faithful journal and have continued to keep that journal, especially now as a new college president. That journal has been a pretty important part of my life. And so in this year of practice, there's a lot of things that I want us to continue to come back to as a college community. One of them is the Educational Master Plan. We put a lot of investment in the Educational Master Plan, and there's some goals on that Educational Master Plan that we need to work towards as a college community. Goals having to do with our schedule and how we're serving our students, how we're offering classes, when we're offering classes, which classes we're offering. And I know the vice presidents and faculty, deans, and all of you are engaged in that conversation. We're in the midst of the Facilities Master Plan right now. You'll be hearing more about that going forward. What buildings do we need? What environments do we need for teaching and learning to maximize what we're doing for students? What do we need to do to make sure that we're offering the best campus environment to offer the best educational services for our community and for our students that we serve each day? Our programs and our facilities are only incumbent on the instructional programs that you are committed to and we are committed to. So we need to keep coming back to that. Our solar project gets underway at the end of the month. The pool is about to be filled. I think today, actually, which is September 19th when I'm recording this podcast. The athletic fields are continuing to be completed and should be completed in January. We're talking about going forward with a general bond in November 2018 on the ballot, and we're looking at the feasibility of that. I'd be very interested in hearing your reaction to that idea. And of course, we have accreditation in spring of 2019, and we are starting some substantive conversations about that. So I need your engagement in these big conversations. I need you to show up. I need you to continue to be part of creating that contagious culture we talked about at Convocation. I need you to be present and to be open. And I need you to help me to review and update our principles of community and our shared governance handbook and processes here so that we can get this work done together in a meaningful way. And so when I talk about the year of practice, those are the types of things that are circulating around in my mind. Those are the things I'm writing about in my journal. Those are the things I think about when I'm walking the hills behind my house with my dog and thinking about things on the weekend. So in the podcast in the future, I'm going to be bringing in some of you to talk about what do you do to practice? What kinds of practice are important to you in your work here at the college and in your work in your life, so that we can collect some of those stories. Because, you know, I've been a researcher my whole life too, researching in my academic life and in my personal life. I think those shared stories about practice really help us to come together as a community as we think about what's best in the lives of our students. So until the next time on my presidential podcast, this is Kathleen Rose signing off, and I hope your academic year continues to go well, and I'll see you next time right here on our podcast. Take care.